board and staff member.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Supervisor Messick.
Here. Great, thank you. First up is consent agenda. Any board comment or questions on consent?
Through the chair. Just want to let you know that I'm going to abstain from item number 7 because it directly relates to my other employment.
Okay.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Can you clarify the, besides number 7, what I know the numbering scheme's different on the online version versus the paper version.
Probation approved memorandum of understanding with Yuba County Office of Education.
Okay, great. So any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Motion passes with one abstention on one item. So next up is public communications. Any person may speak about any subject of concern, provided it is within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors and not already on today's agenda. The total amount of time allotted for receiving such public comment shall be limited to a total of 15 minutes, and each individual or group will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Prior to this time, speakers are requested to fill out a request to speak card and submit it to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors. Those on Zoom can raise their hand, but please note no board action can be taken on any comments made under this heading. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda today?
Through the chair, we have one request to speak card. Tony Farley.
Okay. Morning, Tony.
Hey, Rascal's laughing. Tony Farley. North City, 1298 Willow Creek Drive. I'm back at Mom's house. We're good. Back at Mom's house. Out of the group home, back to my mom's. Chief Saxon, thank you for your service. McGeorge Lawyer, thank you for your service. Sacramento, thank you for your service. And John Miss, the farmer's daughter, thank you for your service. The chairman of the Communist Party, Seth Fuller, thank you for your service. The House, thank you for your service. And Eddie Vasquez, the Trump tie, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service, Probation Department, OES Department, Code Enforcement. Good job, Code Enforcement, to take down the marijuana plants. Just say no to marijuana. Thank you, HHS, Health Department. Thank you, Clint Curry, DA, Clint Curry, DA's office. Thank you, building inspectors. Thank you for your service.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Any additional comments? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to special presentations. We have one item, 257-2025, present proclamation to Krista Trimble, honoring her years of service. Krista, if you're here, you can meet me up at the podium. Board of Supervisors proclamation honoring eligibility supervisor Krista Trimble. Whereas Krista started her distinguished career at Yuba County Health and Human Services as a clerk typist 2 in 1990, demonstrating exceptional dedication, attention to detail, and a strong commitment to public service. And whereas through perseverance and excellence, she advanced the role of eligibility technician, laying the foundation for a career supporting individuals and families in need. And whereas her expertise in leadership led to her promotion as a senior eligibility technician, where she played a vital role in mentoring and training new staff, ensuring the continued success of the department. And whereas her dedication to fairness and integrity earned her the position of Fair Hearings Officer, where she safeguarded the rights of individuals and ensured equitable resolutions to those seeking assistance. And whereas her commitment to service and leadership culminated in her role as an eligibility supervisor, where she guided her teams, strengthened vital programs, and played a key role in disaster response efforts, providing critical aid and support during emergencies. And whereas Krista is known for her creativity and ability to uplift staff morale, fostering an atmosphere of teamwork, encouragement, and inspiration, making every workplace brighter and more connected. Her integrity, professionalism, and unwavering dedication have left a lasting legacy, inspiring future generations of public servants to uphold the same standard of excellence. And whereas throughout her many years of exceptional service, Krista has positively impacted colleagues, improved county programs, and made an enduring difference in the lives of countless individuals and families in Yuba County. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Yuba County Board of Supervisors hereby commends Krista Trimble in her 35 years of outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to Yuba County, and wishes her joy, health, and success in all her future endeavors. Thank you for your service to our community and our residents. You've done some amazing things. Would you like to say anything? Yes, it should.
I really just want to thank Yuba County because I never thought 35 years ago when I applied that it would be my career. I had no idea what I was getting into, but it's truly my family. And they've just been through every single stage of my life, professionally and personally. And I'm truly grateful for everything that it's brought me.
Thank you for all you've done. Okay. Okay, next up is county departments, and we will start with item 214, 2025, County Administrator. Approved budget adjustment in the amount of $496 to account number as listed, directly related to Measure K sales tax consultant services. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Emily Bakken, Management Analyst with the County Administrator. The item before you this morning is a budget adjustment showing an increase in discretionary revenue in the amount of $496. In December of 2018, the Board of Supervisors approved a contract with Hinderleiter Delamas and Associates for sales tax consulting services. These services conduct ongoing revenue reviews to identify and correct unreported transactions, use tax payments, and distribution errors, generating previously unrealized revenue for the county. The budget adjustment requested and associated invoice shows a misallocation for 2 Yuba County businesses for fiscal year 24-25. The audit work is a direct benefit to Measure K revenue, and the budget adjustment includes the invoice as a Measure K expense. Overall, the total misallocated funds found by HDL was a net gain to Measure K of $1,486. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay. Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
You have to do a roll call?
I think we do not have to do a roll call, correct?
4 out of 5.
Okay, so any 4/5 vote does require a roll call. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes.
Supervisor House?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Motion
Okay,
passes.
great. Thank you. Next up is receive recommended budget for fiscal year 25-26.
All right, let me pull this PowerPoint up. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Kevin Mallon, Yuba County Administrator. So I have, let's see here. Let's see if this works right. Spin. That. There's a lot of steps here. Okay. And I'm going to hide. Oh. Is that, did I get all the steps down? All right, perfect. All right, so I have the privilege to present I should say the CEOs, but I guess that'd be like kind of a third person. My recommended budget to the board this morning for fiscal year 25-26, but it's not really my recommended budget. It's really the team's recommended budget. It is definitely a team effort. So you'll see out in the audience, you have all of the county departments, and then of course, my team within the county administrator's office that pull this together each year to present to the board. And this, as I'll discuss here in a minute, is part of it's basically like a year-long cycle as part of the county's budget process. But what's before you today is really the CAO recommended budget will become the interim spending plan for the county beginning July 1st. So let me get into it here. Let me. There we go. So as we prepared this the budget for the board's consideration, there's a few objectives of mine that I just wanted to go over. Obviously, we want to continue moving the county forward in a fiscally responsible manner, and we want to be able to serve our communities to the best of our abilities within the financial resources available. Obviously, we want to strive to meet the board's adopted top priorities for fiscal year 25-26. And then continue investing in physical and technical infrastructure to enhance our services and our communities we serve. And doing all of this while ensuring that we meet or exceed the board adopted policies in regards to our reserves and contingencies. Wait, that's like lots of things on the screen here. Do I just hit OK with this? Will that go away too? All right. So I thought I got rid of this, but it just keeps coming back here. All right. So as kind of a refresher, the board in January of this year held a workshop and set the top priorities for us as an organization to focus on in fiscal year 25-26. And I just wanted to highlight some of them. One of the priorities under county service delivery, obviously we want to continue leveraging technology that enables service improvements, continue our efforts on economic development, and really focus in on improving our jobs to housing ratio in Yuba County. Continue those positive impacts that we're seeing from our code and law enforcement activities in our commercial corridors, continue investing in infrastructure. When we have some major projects coming up here, the South Beale Interchange, Plymouth Lake Boulevard Interchange, and a whole slew of sidewalk and drainage improvements in the Linda and Olivehurst communities. Let's see here. On the behavioral health front, continue assessing behavioral health service delivery in Yuba County, taking a look at our 50-plus year arrangement we've had with Sutter County and figuring out a best path forward for service delivery for Yuba County. And then social services continue all of the great programs and services being provided to our residents through HHS and their partner agencies. On the natural resources front, looking for opportunities to improve that safe recreational access to our rivers. And workforce development as far as a top priority. That Yes to Yuba mindset, that was one of 8 organizational values in our strategic plan. And so focusing in on that particular organizational value and developing some training around that. And then on our organizational culture, just creating opportunities to share our organizational values with our employees. So those were the top priorities the board had set to focus in on for fiscal year 25-26. Just wanted to kind of keep those in mind as we run through this. Okay, so as far as the budget cycle, as I mentioned, where it kind of flows throughout the year. So those priorities I just reviewed, those were adopted by the board in January of this year. They kind of created the direction, the marching orders for departments as they prepared their budgets that were submitted to my office in March. And then in April of this year, my office met with all of the departments, went over their budgets, and then took a look at the budgets in totality that were submitted relative to the financial resources available, and did some back and forth with the departments to make sure we were in alignment there so that we weren't spending more than we had available. My office reviewed the summary of this recommended budget with both the finance and the budget ad hoc committees in May. Obviously, we're before you today in June here with the recommended budget, which would be the interim spending plan beginning of the fiscal year here in July 1. In August would be the time for the board to have some one-on-one time with each department, hear about what they accomplished the previous year, what they're planning to focus on the coming here in fiscal year 25-26, kind of discuss their needs, and then at the conclusion of that budget workshop, provide direction to my office on any adjustments needed to the recommended budget that would be included in the adopted budget that would be presented to the board in September. So that's the cycle. Then we're off and running, and then in January we have another workshop with the board to talk about what our priorities are going to be for fiscal year 26-27. All right, so some highlights in the budget, this recommended budget that's before you this morning. It's almost $19 million less than the adopted budget for the current fiscal year. Some of the main drivers on that is just a few less capital projects that were included in there. Another thing that's a little less is we're recommending a reduction in the positions allocated to the departments. We currently have 939 positions allocated. Would be a reduction of about 24 positions throughout the county, kind of sprinkled through various departments. And as just kind of an aside, that 915 number, that's, I believe we were at 914 10 years ago. So it would basically be, over a decade, we're relatively flat on positions allocated. The county's population has definitely not been flat over the last decade. So we've had a significant population growth in Yuba County, and so we're serving more people with essentially the same size workforce. Another highlight in here, and it's one of those that it's kind of a reality for being in California. I think we feel it personally, and as an organization, we feel it as well as insurance continues to rise. And the county's insurance, it's liability, property insurance, workers' comp, medical malpractice, et cetera, that is roughly $2.5 million in increase coming for 25-26, over a 20% increase in one year. So pretty significant for us that we have to absorb. Another highlight in here is appropriation of $7.7 million in Measure K funds for public safety and essential services, and over $28 million in capital projects from various grants. So other highlights that I want to make sure the board's aware of. So this budget was prepared assuming a 3.5% COLA for all employees except those employees that are under the Deputy Sheriff's Association. The reason why is the Deputy Sheriff's Association, we're under contract negotiations still. So the all other employees are with this 3.5% COLA. That's an estimate because if the board recalls, we have a range. The COLAs can be anywhere from 1.5% to 3.5% for those employees based on the California Consumer Price Index, April to April adjustment. Unfortunately, the state doesn't have that number out yet. We checked again this morning. So we've budgeted the maximum. It could be less than the 3.5%, and then we can deal with that adjustment as part of the adopted budget in September. As I mentioned, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, since we're under contract negotiations, any changes in costs associated with those negotiations will need to be addressed at the adopted budget if we're at that point, as well as contract negotiations with our medical and mental health service provider for both the jail and the Tri-County Rehabilitation Center. And then of note, also on the Tri-County Rehabilitation Center is, it's funny how this thing just keeps popping up. It doesn't like to go away. We based on an assessment of the past few years, as far as youth population between the percentage between Yuba County, Sutter County, and Colusa County, it was determined that Yuba County's share of the cost for that facility needs to increase based on the number of youth we've been seeing, and so it's about a 5% increase. So increasing our share from 48% to 53%. That decision was made after the budget was submitted, so that's something that will need to be addressed at adopted budget. Right. So all in, all operating funds, we're just below 320 million is what is contained in this recommended budget. The current fiscal year is roughly $338 million. So as I mentioned before, a little over $18 million decrease. So as far as the revenues coming in to cover that $318 million, this just kind of gives you a graphic to give you a sense of, like, for example, the general fund discretionary funds, which I'll get into in a minute on how they're generated, but that's roughly 20% of the overall budget. Measure K, that 7.7 million is roughly 3% of the overall budget. And the lion's share is coming in those other slices of the pie, which we have categorized as federal state funds. And then our miscellaneous fees slice of the pie, that also includes realignment funds, except for health realignment, which has its own little slice of the pie there at $4.5 million. And then under grant, you have things like the Community Development Block Grant Program, and there's some specific grants within HHS that are covered in that slice of the pie. And then your non-general fund balance. So this would be funds pulled from, for example, say an impact fee trust account that would be pulled in to cover appropriations within the fiscal year, for example, like a capital project. So you've saved the money and then you're pulling it in. All right, so specific to general fund revenue sources, so that the lion's share of that is generated through the county's share of the property tax. As a reminder, the county receives roughly 20% of the property taxes collected. The other 80% is remitted it goes to the special districts within the county, the school districts, state, et cetera. And then there's this VLF swap, vehicle license fee swap. I believe we've talked with the board about this in the past, but that's basically a decades old or multi-decades old arrangement where between the state and the counties, where the county, it basically mirrors property tax in this swap. So as property taxes increase, so does the VLF revenue that the county receives. The tipping fee at the top there, that's the county receives $4.40 per ton of solid waste deposited out of the Ostrom Road landfill. So that's a fairly stable revenue source for the county. It has actually spiked in past years, like for example, after the Camp Fire, there was a lot of debris cleanup that occurred. And so a lot of that solid waste from the debris cleanup ended up at Ostrom landfill. And so it spiked that revenue source up, but for the most part, it hovers at just over $1 million a year. Our sales tax revenue, which is 11% of the general fund, revenue has been on a steady rise. For the last few years, we're kind of estimating based on what's happening at the state level, a flattening for this coming year. Hopefully we're being pessimistic and it increases at a greater rate than we're thinking, but we're being conservative for budget purposes. The interest earned is our cash position, as we've talked in the past, is continued to grow, and so the more cash you have on hand, coupled with interest rates continuing to rise, it results in higher interest earnings for us for the general fund. The license permits and fines, the bulk of those funds are generated through the MOU the county has with Enterprise Rancheria. That's close to $5 million a year through that MOU. And the franchise fees slice of the pie, a large chunk of that is through our franchise agreement with Recology for solid waste collection services. And I think that hopefully that gives you a good idea of the spread on the pie there. Right. Oh, yeah, the word dies there. Okay, so when you look at that 319 million and you look at how we're recommending it be appropriated by functions, you have basically a third of that being appropriated for public protection functions. You have your law enforcement group, obviously sheriff, DA, probation. This also includes the ag department, building inspection. That's all part of the public protection slice of the pie. Social services would be our next largest slice of the pie at just under 30%. And then land use. And the land use slice of the pie also includes public works, which includes the capital projects being performed by public works. So that's how it ends up being such a large slice of the pie. And then you have general government that it's a bit abbreviated here, but it's a little over 10% slice of the pie, which is essentially all of the departments here in the government center, aside from community development, providing those services. And in the capital project little slice that you have here, this is just for capital projects on county facilities. So we still have work being performed on the library renovation project, as well as the jail medical wing that's being built. And so appropriating $3.9 million for the work that'll be done next fiscal year on those two projects. The remaining capital projects are all within that land use slice of the pie because they're all under public works. All right, so specific to the general fund revenue and how we're recommending that be appropriated, a little over 76% of it to the public protection function, followed by 21% in general government, and then very small percentages to land use, social services, health. That 76% is it's been near that 76% mark for several years now. That's been, I guess, well, it's obviously a very important function of county government, and it's and so you end up with 3/4 of the revenue available being focused on that particular function. All right, so appropriation of Measure K, and I do want to make sure the board and the audience is clear on this. This is for the appropriation of Measure K for the county provided services. So Measure K revenue is actually closer to $10 million is what we're estimating. But as the board may recall, 20% of that is distributed directly to the fire districts. So the 9 fire districts, and then the remaining 80% is then used for county services. So that 80% for next fiscal year, we're estimating it at $7.7 million. And as far as functions within the county, this is what we're recommending as far as the spread. So just under 60% of it would be contained within or appropriated to the Sheriff's Department, followed by probation and district attorney's office. And then under building CE there, that magenta colored slice of the pie, that's we have 2 deputies from the Sheriff's Department that are embedded in code enforcement. So those costs are then borne by code enforcement and picked up there, along with some additional abatement funds available through Measure K to make sure we're staying on top of code enforcement abatements. And then the other small slices of the pie are really more focused on internal service departments providing services back to those other larger slices of the pie to make sure everything's running smoothly. All right, so reserves and contingencies. This just gives the board some perspective over the past decade on where we're at with those. We added economic uncertainty back in fiscal year 1920, and then our contingencies have been increasing as well. And so Like, for example, our general reserves, the board adopted policy is 10%, and we're pretty close to that. I think we're at 11% at that $6.2 million level. We're not recommending any changes to these amounts as part of the recommended budget, but it'll definitely be part of our discussion at the board workshop and what we would like to do for the adopted budget in September. And with that, so today, what my recommendation to the board is that you accept and adopt this recommended budget for this coming fiscal year as our interim spending plan that we begin on July 1st. Include those position allocation changes I was mentioning that were contained in the staff report. And make available, copies for public review. And then also on the setting the board workshop in August, we've traditionally been doing it for 2 days. Recommend you go to 3 days. It seems like 2 days has been fairly tight. And so giving us a little bit of breathing room there. And so setting aside, so August 12th is a board meeting in the morning. We'd start the budget workshop in the afternoon, and we'd have a full day on the 13th. Budget workshop, and then more than likely it would just be the morning of the 14th that we would need to make sure that we're getting enough time with the board to make sure directions given on how you would like adjustments made for the adopted budget in September, and then set the adopted budget hearing for September 9th. And with that, happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Questions and comments from board members?
Through the chair, I just have a couple questions, concerns, I guess. So we're seeing public safety is going to go up $4+ million, but it doesn't include cost of living increases, doesn't include the new medical costs with the new contract for medical services if it's awarded, and then it doesn't include. What else doesn't it include?
Here, I can go back up to that slide.
So it doesn't include contract or any of the 5% increase to the Tri-Counties Rehabilitation Center. So what is that $4.5 million or $4 million increase? What is it covering this year? I mean.
So specific, like for example, or specific to the sheriff's department, because I know we have
everything in that category.
Everything
like,
in that.
What's changed in that category that's jumping at $4 million when everybody else is kind of staying the same or similar, and,
right.
And they all have their cost of living increases calculated.
So yeah, there's definitely a number of factors they're not increasing staffing. They're and as you mentioned, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, we don't have any increases picked up there. We do have the increases picked up for the Management Sheriff Association because that contract was approved, as well as unrepresented within the Sheriff's Department. Under public protection, you also have probation. So it does pick up everybody within the probation department, all of their salary increases because that contract's in effect. But you're right, it does have, we have some unknowns with the Deputy Sheriff's Association contract negotiations, and we also have unknowns with our negotiation with the jail medical provider. So the recommended budget before you today, we are being conservative, knowing that we are going to have more expenses that we're going to need to pick up as part of the adopted budget. Back to that $4 million driver, as I mentioned, so you do have actually the lion's share of the employees that are within the public protection function that are outside of DSA. We've already picked up those cost increases. It's just the DSA component of it, which is, Tiffany. I think it's a little under 100 people that are within that public protection function that would be within the DSA. Is that a rough number, Tiffany? DSA employees? 100? Just a little, okay, over 100. All right. So, but I do have representatives from the Sheriff's Department, Probation Department, if you're curious about the specifics on kind of what drove that $4 million
Through the chair.
increase.
Did you already factor in your best guess as to where they're going?
Best guess?
Best guess.
Well, so we factor in all of the knowns. And then we've been conservative on our revenue estimates to make sure we have
So
for
there's
the
no
a
big
little bit for the
change.
unknowns.
There's no big change that you think when they settle that.
I guess that maybe the simplest answer is what was submitted by the public protection function departments is basically a status quo budget. It's just that $4 million in increases are maintaining the same function, the same level of service that they have in fiscal year 24, 25. There weren't any spikes from the standpoint of additional people or additional programs, et cetera. It's just the cost of doing business in that public protection function.
So you don't expect any massive change?
I think he does. It's listed right here. It doesn't include the Sheriff's Association contract negotiation costs, the contract negotiations with the jail and Tri-County's rehabilitation medical service provider, and the jumping from 48 to 53% of funding for the Tri-County's rehabilitation center. So those are all millions of dollars of increases.
Yeah, those three bullet points, if I could through the chair, we could easily see an adopted budget, a couple million in additional appropriations needed to cover those three bullet points.
Yep. That's what I thought.
If I could through the chair, but Supervisor House, were there other questions that you had?
Just through the chair, just because I'm new to this process. So we adopt this, if we adopt this budget, it goes into effect at July 1st. Then we work on the actual budget that gets approved in September. But if for some reason there's no agreement on that, we go back to this budget. This is what we're going to operate on in lieu.
No, the board has to adopt that budget in September. So this is just interim. So what the board's approving today in June is just an interim spending plan to make it through July, August, and then into September when the board adopts what we used to call the final budget, but the adopted budget.
And Supervisor House, part of that reason is from an accounting standpoint, the books for this current fiscal year aren't closed until a few months into the next fiscal year. So you don't necessarily know for sure kind of your final fund balances. And so that's part of what gets reconciled when we do the update in August and September is we know exactly where everything ended from this fiscal year, and we can take that into account for the final budget.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Chair.
Kevin, these items, you have status quo with what it is now. So it's not like adding in a whole new amount on contract negotiations. You've got what they've got now. So whatever it goes up is not a major entry.
Yes, if I could through the chair, like for example, and I think it was it the slide before? So like we've already factored in the $2.5 million and insurance increases that obviously it hits, across the different departments. I believe a pretty large chunk of that $2.5 million hit the public protection departments. So that's part of that $4 million that Supervisor House that you were referring to is just paying the insurance bill, the increase in the insurance bill. But the recommended budget that's before the board this morning is as many knowns as possible. We've included in this budget. We do have some unknowns because we still have to close out the end of this year, and we still have some negotiations going on that we'll need to take care of in September.
Another question, Supervisor?
Yeah, through the chair. The amount of cuts coming from the federal government and how it's going to affect all programs throughout the counties and state. A lot of that's probably not 100% known yet, nor factored into these budgets either. So I'm hoping by September that'd be more clear. But just seeing $700 million cut out of community services commissions across the country, I know it's going to affect our number. And just have any of the new state budget numbers and the cuts coming from the state, have all those numbers been factored in anything that's been released so far in like the May adjusted or May revised budget? Or is this March?
Yeah, I was going to say we've reviewed the governor's may revise. We didn't see anything drastic. Obviously, the governor and the legislature are still wrestling. I think they're supposed to have things worked out by June 15th. I've kind of heard though that it may just be they have a placeholder budget June 15th, and it may take the state a little longer than a typical year to kind of work things out. But some of the major sticking points I think that the state's trying to work out is Medi-Cal, which obviously wherever they end up with the Medi-Cal conversation will have a direct impact back to the county in our HHS department that we'll need to address. But right now, as I mentioned before, as much as it's kind of a snapshot in time, but we took as much information as we had at the time to prepare this recommended budget. But there's definitely wrangling going on at the state level. For example, on Medi-Cal, obviously there's a federal conversation as well on Medicaid that may have some effects, but they're still to be determined. And I'm not sure if HHS, if there's anything you'd want to add on specific to okay.
Anything else, Supervisor House?
Give me a minute.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, Supervisor House is looking. Do any other board members have some questions?
So through the chair, we're actually increasing the general fund budget by the $4 million, right? It was 59, now it's 63.8.
Right, which is the lion's share of that is to accommodate the public protection increases.
Okay. And was there a drop in Measure K revenue this year, or have we seen one, or do we expect one also?
Not a drop in revenue coming in through Measure K, but more of a drop. A drop in appropriations. So in past years, we've appropriated for ongoing as well as some one-time projects funded through Measure K. The recommended budget before you it's nearly all that 7.7 million. I think 7.5 million of it is ongoing, our costs, and only a couple $100,000 is I think it's for a project within the probation department. And like in past years, we've had, multi-million-dollar capital improvement type projects that are funded through Measure K that are a one-time. But as far as the Measure K revenue, it's been on a kind of a steady climb. That's the 1 cent sales tax collected in the unincorporated area of the county.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing there's no additional comments or questions from the board at this time, is that correct? Okay, we'll move to any public comment on this item. Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Let's do, and just for clarity, since I think there's multiple things we need to vote on, are the first and the second to do what's on the screen before us?
Yes.
Okay, so with that, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes.
Supervisor House?
No.
Supervisor Fuhr?
No.
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Okay, next we will move on to item 267, 2025, Administrative Services. Adopt resolution authorizing purchasing agent to complete purchase of APN 014270109 and to execute any and all further documents upon review and approval of County Council. Approve MOU with Olivehurst Public Utility District related to joint purchase of the same APN and authorize chair to execute. Morning, Permitter.
Good morning, Board. Permitter Baines with Admin Services. I'm here to recommend that the Board approve the updated resolution. I believe you guys have a copy of the updated resolution. And I know Ezzy has extra copies if the public wants to see or get a copy of the resolution. I'll go over the updated resolution in a second, but I'm also requesting that the board approve the memorandum of understanding with Olivehurst Public Utility District. The resolution, I want to apologize that I didn't catch the minor clerical errors. We updated the lots, the parcel sizes, the acreage. And as I was going through it, we also added the spouse for Manbir Dillon. I believe it's pronounced Mandish Dillon. On the first section of whereas, the first paragraph, I added Mandish Dillon and deleted said property is currently listed for sale. It's a generic thing that we use for our resolutions for property that we're purchasing. Usually they're for sale, but we actually hired a real estate agent to reach out to the property owner. So I deleted that. And then on the second paragraph, OPUD needs 23.116 or 16th acres. And on the third paragraph, the county is needing 6 acres. And then on the fourth paragraph, OPUD agrees to purchase 23.16 acres in the amount of $1,906,173. And the county agrees to purchase 6 acres for $493,827. The MOU is current. They had all the correct information. I apologize for that. Are there any questions regarding the resolution?
Through the chair. So there's no general funds involved?
No, this is the
It's through the drainage fund,
correct.
which is
Okay.
primarily
you know.
funded by the Yuba Water Agency.
Okay. But it's not out of the general fund. So. Thank
Okay.
you.
Additional board questions or comments? Okay. Any public comment on this item? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion and a second?
I'll second.
Okay. First and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have one opposed. Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to 272-2025 Board of Supervisors. Appoint to South Yuba Transportation Improvement Authority, SATIA, Supervisor John Messick as Director and Supervisor Andy Vasquez as the alternate. And I guess I'll take this one. SATIA has been around since 2017. JPA between the city and the county, the city of Wheatland and the county focuses on transportation projects in the south part of the county, predominantly in the Plumas Lake and the Wheatland areas. Supervisor Vasquez and myself were appointed to be the representatives way back in 2017. I appreciate Supervisor Vasquez's service on that board for the last 9 years. When the board was originally, the JPA was originally formed, all of the proposed projects were located in the 4th district. Due to redistricting the last round, the projects are now both in the 4th and 5th district. And so I feel it is most appropriate for the 4th and 5th district supervisors to be the 2 representatives on that board. And so that's why I requested that this be brought before us. So I want to thank Supervisor Vasquez for being willing to give up his seat to Supervisor Messick, and for his many years of service on the board and his work to help push those projects forward that are really critical for our community. So with that, I guess I'd be happy to take any questions that any of my fellow board members have. Okay.
I move to approve.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Right. 4th and 5th districts are where the projects are located. We're looking to add supervise. So basically, currently it's Andy and I as the 2 primary directors. I believe you are the alternate. We are looking to replace Andy's position on the board with Supervisor Messick. Yeah. So I think I heard a first. Did I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Oh, thank you. Any public comment on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we already took the vote and motion passed unanimously. So we have one item left, 270-2025, Community Development and Services, receive an update on the Yuba-Sutter Regional Safety Action Plan. Morning, Sam.
And we have Dan Peterson and Adrian with Fair and Pierce here. I'm just going to try to set up the slides for them.
Excuse me. While Sam's doing that, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Dan Peterson, former Public Works Director here at Yuba County. We'd like to present an update to the board today on the Yuba-Sutter Regional Safety Action Plan. This is something we've been working on for about 3 years. It started back in 2022 when Yuba County applied for funding under the Safe Streets and Roads for All program to develop a regional safety action plan. The request was done in coordination with Sutter County, Yuba City, Wheatland, Marysville, and Live Oak, so we would have a truly regional plan instead of just several standalone plans. The intent is for this to not be one of those planning documents that you finish and just stick on a bookshelf and never look at. There was a definite reason for doing a comprehensive plan. Yuba County ranked 11th out of the 58 counties in California in terms of the number of collisions resulting in fatalities or severe injuries. Sutter County was right behind us at number 13 out of the 58 counties. So the intent is to develop this clear, comprehensive safety plan that allows us to identify safety corridors where we need to address safety issues, and also help guide the selection of the safety countermeasures that we incorporate into our projects. Yuba County is taking the lead at administering this effort, and we are also the lead as far as the grant is concerned in administering the grant. Fair and Pierce is the transportation consultant that's actually doing the heavy lifting and preparing the plan. I have been asked to act as a facilitator between the 6 different entities so that we can actually come up with a plan that is not a Yuba County plan that includes a couple other things for other people, but is truly a plan that represents all 6 agencies. Everyone supports the ultimate vision of the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, which is to eliminate collisions that result in fatalities or severe injuries by a specific date. We acknowledge that this is going to be a long-term effort, but it's definitely going to be of value when we go through and prioritize projects and actually scope those projects to incorporate safety countermeasures in the future. This is, as I mentioned before, a multi-year effort. We started working on this in 2022. We are now nearing completion of the Regional Safety Action Plan this year in 2025. We will actually be bringing the Regional Safety Action Plan before the board at the next board meeting with a recommendation to adopt the plan. The development of this Regional Safety Action Plan did include a very robust public engagement effort. We used social media, and the Yuba County Public Information Officer was very helpful in this. We provided a web page for people to provide feedback. We provided an online survey asking people to provide information and their input. We also held multiple workshops that were conducted in in Marysville, in Yuba City, and in Live Oak. And information was available in English and in Spanish, and we provided translators at those workshops. So at this point, I'm going to turn over the microphone to Adrian Engel with Fair and Pierce, and he has a very brief PowerPoint that will go into a little more depth as to what's in the Regional Safety Action Plan.
All right, thank you for having me. Let's see. Some of this is a repeat that Dan already mentioned. I just wanted to highlight the chart to the right-hand side of the slide here, where many local agencies have a local road safety plan, which meets qualifications to apply for state safety funding. The SS4A program has taken the safety action plan that you would create at the state level, has added like a handful of additional requirements. And so the regional safety action plan will meet all of those additional requirements to make the county and the other agencies involved eligible for the federal safety funding as well. As Dan mentioned, our goal through this plan is the Yuba-Sutter region will work collaboratively to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2050. This time frame is in alignment with the Vision Zero statement by Caltrans, and so all of the agencies will be working towards that same goal. The vision we see with the plan is the Yuba-Sutter region will have a multimodal, sustainable, and equitable transportation system where users of all ages and abilities can travel conveniently, reliably, and free from harm. The methodology in our document takes data compiled by California Highway Patrol, but provided by local sheriff and police departments called SWITers. The data sets that we're using that you'll see information from in this presentation is between January 2018 and December 2023. And it only includes collisions that involved an injury, serious or minor, and or a fatality. And so there are lots of other collisions that are happening on our roadways that are property damage only, but aren't included as part of the analysis of the plan. Looking at that 6-year time frame, the number of injury collisions has been pretty consistent, just under 1,000 every year across the region, which is both Yuba-Sutter County and the 4 cities within. And you can see on the bottom about 150 or so people are dying or seriously injured each year in the traffic collisions as well. Looking at some of the trends within those collisions, we're seeing that broadside collisions are the #1 result of many of these collisions, resulting in serious injury or fatality. Rear end is also a very common type collision we're seeing, especially on the highways approaching many of these cities. Unsafe speed and improper turning are the 2 top violations listed as the primary collision factor in these crashes. And just as an aside, many of the local road safety plans will exclude data from the state system, allowing Caltrans to sort of maintain and deal with their own safety planning work. The task force and the project development team encouraged us to include the state facilities within the regional safety action plan so that we can work collaboratively with Caltrans and the agencies together to tackle some of the issues on the state highway. So much of the data you've seen here will also include reference to state highway corridors. We did see, looking at that 6 years of data, that 39% of the injury crashes occurred on state highways within the region, which accounts for about 7.6% of the roadways within the region. So a very disproportional amount of collisions that are happening on your local highways. Specifically looking at Yuba County, of the roughly 5,300 collisions that we saw in the region, 2,300 of those happened within the county, so a little less than half. Similarly with the KSIs, we're seeing about half of the killed or seriously injured collisions happening within the unincorporated county as well. You can see here the reported causes of the crash and some of the leading crash types like I've already discussed. I do want to highlight a couple different things. Improper turning, driving under the influence, walking within the roadway, and pedestrian violations are all collisions that are happening regularly in Yuba County that have a disproportional number of killed or seriously injured, along with those the other collisions that we mentioned previously with the broadsides and rear ends. I also want to recognize that in Yuba County, many of the roadways, especially in the northeast part of the county, are seeing hit object as the primary result of that. So people leaving the roadway, hitting a pole or a tree or something on the side of the roadway due to the types of roadways that you see in the more rural parts of the county as well. So the plan will start to address these issues at a high level, as well as identifying some corridors at a more specific level. As Dan mentioned, as part of the requirement for this plan, we had to have a robust community engagement process. We did create a project website and a social pinpoint input map where the community members could log into the website and add comments virtually in locations where they're experiencing challenges with traffic safety. We created a safety task force, which composed of agency staff from Public Works, local law enforcement, the school district, and local advocates. Met a handful of times to discuss the issues and used as a steering committee for greater community engagement, which included 3 pop-up activities in the last few months at the food bank, working with Blue Zones, as well as a family skate night in Yuba City. And then we had, as Dan mentioned, 4 public listening sessions in Marysville, Yuba City, Live Oak, and Wheatland in the last month or so to try to get more information from the public on where they're experiencing things. We have a good handle on what the data is telling us. We do like to get out of the community, understand maybe places they're avoiding that aren't showing up in the data, or places where we're hearing about close calls or things that may not be relevant, but the context of living here and driving those and walking on those roadways every day is important. So with that information, both the data from the SWITRs, our analysis, and the input from staff and community, we've helped Yuba County and the other jurisdictions create a safety corridor map. These are corridors that were identified through a rigorous data process as per state law. These corridors allow additional speed limit setting criteria, as well as some additional qualification for funding moving forward. A little difficult on the broader county map to see, but all of the orange lines are part of the safety corridor. We've also then taken this information with community input and staff input to identify priority corridors. And on the next slide, I've listed the 10 priority corridors that were identified through this process. The North Beale Lyndhurst Avenue section between the SR 70 ramps and Early Road was the first one that's being brought forward at the end of the month for our first implementation grant. But you can see 9 other corridors here that we'll be working on as part as we finalize the plan for additional technical analysis and hopefully setting up for grants in the future as well. So with that, happy to answer any specific questions you might have.
Through the chair. You flag certain reasons that you're assuming that were the cause of the accident. And one very important one that is missing from there is phone use, because I mean I drive a lot. And there's nothing like being in a left-hand lane next to a guy who's reading his phone, doing 10 miles an hour slower in the right lane, or stopped. What have we done as far as isolating phone use?
And I'm going to interject once again, Dan Peterson. When we look at the SWITRs data, they actually list the primary causation factor as determined by the responding officer. There is a category in there for distracted driving. The problem is, and I'm going to delve into the weeds a little bit, so please bear with me. When we do a safety corridor analysis, the first thing we do is we grab all the injury collisions, then we look at the primary causation factors, and then we select safety countermeasures that will reduce the number of injuries. Then the final step is we do a benefit cost analysis to see if what we're proposing makes sense financially. So in terms of what we're doing with this effort, what we're trying to do is see how we can make the roads themselves safer. And the distracted driving is probably going to be a public information, public education effort, which would be a little bit outside of what we're trying to accomplish here. As Adrian mentioned, one of the driving factors behind this effort, to be somewhat mercenary, is to make sure that Yuba County, Sutter County, Yuba City, Wheatland, Live Oak, and Marysville are all going to be eligible to compete for future grant funding for road projects. And this Regional Safety Action Plan positions us so we can continue to go after future grants. For example, Yuba County will be submitting a grant application on June 26th to implement safety countermeasures into a specific project on Olivehurst and North Beale Road based on the findings of this regional safety action plan. This plan is making us eligible to apply for that grant funding on June 26th. So that's a long answer to a simple question. Yes, we definitely do recognize that distracted driving is a big issue. It's going to be addressed by a public education effort, which is outside the purview of what this regional plan is trying to accomplish, which is to identify opportunities to make our roads safer by actually doing something to the roads. Does that answer your questions?
Well, it's just having driven across Marysville Bridge and seeing the gaps between cars because people are reading their phones. Isn't there a way to enforce that?
That we'll get into, and that is something that's recommended in the Regional Safety Action Plan and in different applications for specific projects, is coordination with CHP and with law enforcement. And in addition to that true public education effort. But I agree with you. It's not just a daily occurrence, it is a street by street occurrence where we get behind somebody who's screwing around on their phone and they don't move when the light turns green, or they're going 10 miles an hour slower than everybody else, causing people to make a poor decision and an unsafe lane change to try to get around them. So I definitely agree that that's something we need to address.
Ron Wyden had an appropriate saying for that. Can't fix stupid. So. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Through the chair, I just wanted to thank you guys for the work you're doing on reducing these injuries and fatalities due to all of these unsafe conditions. I told everybody before I lost my mother-in-law to something similar to this, and so it hits home, and the work's great. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I just want to echo those comments, and I was happy to see one of the roads that my constituents have significant concerns about with respect to accidents, and that's 40 Mile Road on the list of priority corridors. So I'm glad to see that on there. I'm sure my constituents will appreciate that as well. So anything else? Any public comment on this item? Well, sir, can you come up to the podium, please, if you'd like to make a public comment?
Until you get to the blank thing. Almost can't do it.
I noticed they were addressing particularly automobiles. I ride a motorcycle. I put a grievous amount of miles on my motorcycles. And I find all the time that the traffic around this area is pretty much horrible. And the worst offending thing is when you're on a motorcycle and the light turns green and you pull forward, there's always the person that wants to make sure that they go through the red at the end. How's that going to be addressed? Or the people that are, like Mr. Vasquez said, driving down the road, talking on their phones, not paying attention to the people that are dangling or invisible on the road. How does that change? Or how does that address the concerns of the people that are riding on the two-wheel vehicle?
And that's actually an extremely good question. It's something that I apologize I did not cover clearly. When we talk about injury collisions, we're not only talking about automobiles or pickup trucks or semi-trucks, we're also talking about motorcycles, we're talking about bicycles, and we're talking about pedestrians, we're talking about people that are on rollerblades or on scooters. Anybody that's being injured in a roadway collision is part of this effort. So I apologize for not covering that better. I'll step aside and let Adrian talk about the safety countermeasures that are appropriate more towards motorcycles, bicyclists, and pedestrians.
Yeah, we'll see that in the data, we have seen that intersection red light running and the broadside collisions that I mentioned were very prevalent throughout the region. Many of the countermeasures that we're looking at in terms of the toolbox, we'll look at changing signal timing, increasing the all red phase, adding dilemma zone detection, some other things that we can do with the traffic signals themselves to make it so that if there is a red light runner at the end of that cycle, somebody hasn't already entered in the intersection, whether it's a pedestrian or a motorcycle, to make things safer along those roads.
Through the chair. Is there any way to change the enforcement of the red light?
Well,
the guy who runs the red light, can we increase fines or add additional charges if there's deaths?
We're stepping a bit outside the Regional Safety Action Plan at this moment, but that's okay. One of the things that I'm very pleased about is I continue to be very involved with the Yuba County Sheriff's Department. Wendell has been absolutely a fantastic supporter in all of our efforts in trying to get funding to make our roads safer. And one of the things that I know that the Sheriff's Department is looking at doing is pursuing grant funding to put in cameras at intersections, which I think would be a huge deterrent for people to be running those stagnant yellow or just blatantly red lights trying to get through the intersection. And then I also truly believe that we need to look for an opportunity to get funding for a true public education effort and an enhanced enforcement effort to reinforce the fact that, you know, trying to rush through an intersection is a bad idea at any time. So let's take a deep breath, slow down, and get to our destination safely.
Okay. Do we have an additional public comment?
Yes, my name is Russell Enslin. Live in District 2. I just noticed how you presented your information. One of your items was the statistics was from speeders and turning people, and it made it cloudy which ones, you know, how much is the problem is from speeders and how much of the problem is from people turning. The other one is you had drunk drivers and drunk bicycle drivers, right? And it just kind of clouded it and made it, that was my comment. And then while I was standing here, just to Andy's point, you said that your budget and your mission is about the roads rather than the enforcement or whatever, but isn't signage part of roads? And couldn't you do something to put a sign that says, hey, you know, we've had this many people die from cell phones, please don't do it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and once again, an extremely good point. Signage and striping are both components of a road safety project. So absolutely, signage is something that we do incorporate into all of our projects. And quite bluntly, signing and striping are low-cost safety items. So it's a matter of routine that they do get included in every project. How much they actually are given credit for reducing the number of injury collisions, that is still something that's not clearly defined by the U.S. Department of Transportation. They're the ones that actually assign the collision reduction factors associated with every specific countermeasure. But absolutely, signage and striping are things that we look at with every project. And you actually had a number of points that went beyond just the signage. When we look at how many collisions are associated with drunk driving, how many are associated with speeding, how many are associated with unsafe turns, it really breaks down to segment by segment, intersection by intersection. What Adrian was presenting was kind of a comprehensive county-wide, or actually region-wide overview. We have to literally break it down when we look at an individual project. We break down the collisions that fall within the project area, and then we specifically identify what were the primary causation factors for every individual collision. So, and once again, not to dive too deep into the weeds, this is the part that I love doing because this is what I do. It's not something that's easily broken out by region. It really has to be broken out by individual roadway segments and by intersections. And even within one over-encompassing project limit, like our North Beale Road Lyndhurst Avenue project, we have a number of intersections which have to be evaluated independently of the roadway segments between the intersections. So there's a lot of very detailed work that goes into that. So I'm not trying to obfuscate, I'm just trying to explain that what Adrian presented was a true regional 30,000 foot view. But when we go to do project by project, then we dive a lot deeper. And one of the things that I probably should bring up is part of this regional safety action plan's effort is to identify the safety corridors, the ones that we really want to focus on, and then Adrian's team is going into the weeds on every one of those corridors and every intersection and every roadway segment and breaking down the types of collisions, the severity of the collisions and the causation factors for each of those intersections and each of those roadway segments on the safety corridors. That is the information that I then take and put into a grant application, which is absolutely necessary. So this regional safety action plan is doing a lot of the work that I would otherwise be having to do every time I sit down and do a grant application. So I think that effort has not been represented in this PowerPoint, but it will be included in the final regional safety action plan. One thing that I should inform the board and the public is that the plan that we're going to present to the board for adoption at the next board meeting is not going to have all of that detail ready for Sutter County, Yuba City, Live Oak, Marysville, but it will have most of it done for Yuba County. Why? Because I dove into a lot of that and helped present that data. But we will be coming back to the board subsequently, a few months down the road, to amend the regional safety action plan to add those additional elements, even though they're outside of Yuba County.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just cell phone while driving use. I think it's about information. People don't really know how much damage is caused from it. They had a corridor in South Yuba City that had to do with it was a signage program where they put the statistics of how many people were dying, and it was highly effective, but they took the program down because nobody wanted, their partner or spouse or daughter to be part of that statistic. So it was unfortunate that we couldn't use this highly effective, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So this is just a presentation, or is there action requested?
So this is just a presentation. Okay. We will be coming back before the board in 2 weeks, requesting that the board adopt the Regional Safety Action Plan.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, we will move on. Next up is correspondence. It's as listed on the agenda, and then board and staff member reports. So we'll start with Supervisor Vasquez.
Went to the Saturday Air Show at the base. Outstanding. Get together a lot of the new projects that are going out there, the autonomous planes, the different aspects of our Beale Air Force Base. And got a little warm out there, so I only stayed about 3 hours. But it was actually well worth seeing. If you didn't go to it, you missed something.
Thank you. Supervisor House?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention earlier, I didn't really get to speak on why I voted no on some action. So thank you, staff members, for putting together your budgets in a timely manner and putting all your projections in. It had nothing to do with anything you guys presented. It just has to do with the fact that we know there's some major outliers that are in the multiple $1 million range, and we're presenting a budget that says it's balanced at $319 million, and we know there's going to be more. So I would like to see a balanced budget that factors in those expenses so that we're not, we're giving this to the public to see, and I want them to know that there's more. There's a lot more. So, but thank you for what you do. I appreciate public safety, every department we have. You do a great job, and I back you guys 100%. I just want the numbers to be realistic so that people know what to expect in the budget building process. Thank you.
Supervisor Messick.
I also went to the air show Saturday. It was a great show. And if I look tired, it's because the fair is next week and I'm getting myself ready to be tired all week from camping at the fair. So I hope you guys all come out and support. And when these 4-H and FFA kids come around with their letters, take the time to ask them questions. It's part of their project to present to people. So get out of their shell, I guess, and go out. So if you have them come around and present to you, just take the time to talk to them and ask them questions and get them used to talking in public. That's it.
Ezzy, anything from you?
Through the chair, nothing to report.
Okay, council?
Thank you.
Kevin?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure the board was aware that next Thursday, June 18th, we're going to have an active assailant drill here at the Government Center. from 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning. We're working with the Sheriff's Department on this. There's actually training we're doing with staff this week in preparation for the drill next week. It's something we haven't done here at the Government Center. It's something we should be doing. And so that's why we're getting it started. It is something that we've had at other facilities at the county, and it's just making sure we have a safe place in the event something like that occurs, or as safe as possible.
Great. Thank you. I just have a couple quick items. So last week was the annual Greater Sacramento Economic Council annual meeting, and it's about a day and a half, and they had a panel there on all the amazing things going on in Yuba-Sutter, about an hour and 15-minute long panel, and I was able to speak on behalf of Yuba County on that. Mark Bertha was there as well to talk about the amazing things they have planned. It was very well received, probably one of the most got some of the most positive feedback of all the panels that happened. So people in the rest of the region are really excited to see what's going on here in Yuba, and it was great to be able to share that information. I also went to the Beal Air Show, although I went on Sunday, and turns out that was a good day. It was slightly cooler, but it was absolutely amazing. And, props to Team Beal and to BMLC, and I know the Sheriff's Department helped as well. And I'm not sure if we had other staff engaged, but getting on and off base was just a tremendously smooth process. Even after the event, I was probably back home about in 20 minutes. So I had, got into the flow and no issue getting back off, even though I left the same time as everyone else when the air show ended. Toyota Amphitheater this evening at 5:30, I think it is having Chambers having an event out there for their 25th anniversary. So if anyone's available and interested to come out there for that, that would be a great celebration. And then the Chambers also having a ribbon cutting tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow evening in my district, and that's at Papa's Coffee in Wheatland. So just a heads up on that. So next up will be closed session. It's as listed on the agenda. We will recess until 10:35 and start promptly then. So thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.
You've seen signs marking some of the gyms in Marysville. They're produced by Sapphire Sign Company, providing something small, large, and mobile. With decades of experience, Sapphire Signs has pioneered local production of a variety of signs, like temporary campaign-style signs, welcomes for unique events, building signage, event promotion, and vehicle customization. Need a sign? Make it a gem from Sapphire Sign Company. On the web at sapphiremarketinggroup.net. Sapphire.
Yuba-Sutter.live. It's the truth that comes through. Yuba-Sutter alive. It's the truth that comes through.